Hello, friends. Host Eric here, host of Talking with Famous People. And I'm going to make a video that I'm rather looking forward to making because I think it's interesting on several accounts. Of course, I want to stay put. Okay, so here's the story. Nicholas Benner wrote a comment a month ago. I'm not sure he if I saw it and just sort of put it off and then never got back to it. If I never saw it, I don't know, but it slipped through the cracks. And this evening, somebody else commented on this video, and I was responding to that comment, and I saw this. And of course, it's a video that hasn't gotten very many comments. It's only got a couple comments on it. So, it's a month between comments. And I saw this, and I was like, "What the fuck's this?" And I started reading it, and I looked at the date, and I was like, "A month ago." And my first thought was just to, well, I mean, I guess the, what I what happened was I really felt like, oh, that's awful, Eric. And then I went like and said, but you didn't skip it intentionally or anything. And I mean, I'm just gonna fall through the cracks occasionally. But as I told him in the response, which is a short response, just says, um, shit does fall through the cracks occasionally. But well, I'm so sorry I didn't respond to this. Sometimes comments fall through the cracks, but I always respond to big comments like this. My bad. I'll make a video and reply to this right now. So that's it. Doesn't the comment there is not at all indicative of the the impact this discovery of this big ass comment that's been sitting here unresponded to for such a long time actually had on my thinking. Because I was like, I had to think the whole thing through, right? Okay, Eric, you have no reason to feel bad. You didn't intentionally not respond to it. It actually did just sort of slip through the cracks. I do try to respond to every comment. That if there's a certain level of like shortness or just sort of like a check in, like love it, exclamation point or something. Occasionally usually I'll just put thanks, or occasionally most of the time I will try to respond to every comment. Another kind that I might not respond to is if I think I like arguing in person a lot better than I do in comments. I start to dread the comment thread, and I start to avoid it at a certain point. Probably because I feel guilty. Probably because the last time I was there, I smacked the person around. I mean, there are varying degrees of justification for that. You can you can always find probably the justification that says, um, well, he was making like a domination play or something like that. It's usually what it is that'll get a response like that out of me. If they don't if they don't walk in swinging a big dick, I'm not probably gonna have any problem with anybody. I mean, it's a quote I think I've probably referenced before. It's a quote I heard Drew Carey say about Price is Right when he described his um, time doing his previous comedy show as being very high level of competition and intense, and how he was super into comparing himself against other shows and all this shit. And then when on Price is Right, he's like, yeah. And then I just kind of had to toss all that shit aside because I mean it's just a love fest around here. Is what we're saying. The Price is Right. And that's in general the phenomenon I'm experiencing here. I obviously am not on television, and it's not nearly as big a scale, and I obviously don't have that first experience of being on a TV show that was antagonistic or something, but the love fest part I get, right? And I view this as a pretty safe place for me. You know, it's I come I it, it's weird because I just finished making a video where I ripped Islam again. You know, which it deserves, of course. But and then in the next video, I talk about how one thing I like about Tucker Fifty is a safe place. It's not a safe place for Islam. Uh, it is, though, right? It is a safe place for Islam. That's my point. We can yell and argue with each other and say offensive stuff to each other and all that kind of shit and still shake hands at the end of the round. Because we understand the difference between, abstract symbols, talking and words and stuff, and physical violence. Big difference. That's why debate can exist. I've made very strongly made arguments that I would never actually support in real life in a debate round. Have my kids make the same arguments, right? In one debate round, they might argue in favor of the drug war, and the next round, they might argue against it. I don't want to get back on that topic. God damn it, Eric. Nicholas Spinner. Let's read your comment, and then we'll get back to Eric's metaphysical crisis that he had in response to it, which is already occupied too much of this video. Here's a topic for you. I am definitely an INTJ, but I identify very much with ENFJs. Maybe it is because my mother is an ENFJ. I don't necessarily identify with them internally, but more externally. I feel very nurturing towards ENFJs. I see them as very vulnerable and insecure, and I want to reassure them. I see us both as hard on the outside, but squishy and emotional on the inside. For me, on the outside, I am very confident of my understanding of the world and have no problem telling people I am forced to interact with how things are, and I usually fall into the role of solving problems and bringing ideas into reality. I don't care much if I fail. In fact, I expect to fail a certain percentage of the time. On the inside, I am weird and quirky, and I feel something emotional. I am very apparent of it, but there are no words that can express how I feel, so I can't tell people how and why I feel. At most, I can tell you if I feel good or bad about something, but it might as well be a universal truth. I really like that. Why? I don't know, just how it is. Lol. I can convey how I feel visually or through action. I actually try to lead with my emotions in social situations because it makes me appear vulnerable and genuine and tears down other people's walls faster. People don't understand that it pretty much costs me nothing to do either. I don't really care what they think about me or if they judge me, except in how I can use that to get what I want. I hate when people get into my space, but I guarantee that when we meet, I will lead with the biggest bear hug I can give. Anyways, that's a little off topic. I love that. I love the fact that you roll in with your weakness to get everybody comfortable with their perceptions of you as somebody who is sufficiently vulnerable not to be threatening, and in a way that's probably somewhat endearing. I think I kind of do the same thing. It's not with feelings, but I mean, in certain circumstances, I will lead with my weakness for the same reason, you know? And what that weakness is depends on the circumstance. In almost everything in life, I can find some subset of that thing at which that's my weakness at that. And depending on how you depending on your gerrymandering, reality looks very different. All right, so let me move forward through the next part of this. I get the part. You say there are no words that can express how I feel. I can't tell people how and why I feel. I think that's why ENTPs have such an antagonistic relationship to feelings because we operate so naturally, instinctually, through symbolic representations of experience, that when we encounter experience that defies symbolic representation, in fact, it's that it necessarily must be such that symbolic representation can be defined. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to make a distinction. Anyway, yeah, I think that's why HBs have some trouble with internal feelings, or one of the ways in which we manifest the trouble is that it's not an area in which we can use any of our skills at all because it's all language driven. Okay, so in my experience, says Nicholas Spinner, ENFJs try very hard to be confident on the outside. They want it. You know they want it. So they push it. They want it, so they push it. Then they push it real good. Oh, ENFJ wanting it and pushing it. But on the inside, I feel like they are always second guessing themselves, just full of insecurities. I try to get them to open up to me, but it's a struggle. I have to get them to trust me, and an ENFJ will almost never open up to somebody socially below them. I feel like my mother is almost never honest with me about her insecurities in our relationship. She's a parent, and so she's better at life than I am. Well, ENFJs care a lot about hierarchies, titles, positions, importance, symbols of importance, symbols of achievement, symbols of wealth, having the right haircut always matters a great deal. Abraham's obsessed with his hair. ENFJs are an interesting group. You seem to find them probably more lovable than I do. The group that I find equivalent to, it sounds like what you're saying about ENFJs. Because you say here, I'm trying to find it, sorry. I feel very nurturing towards ENFJs. I see them as very vulnerable. Okay, so would it make sense that your equivalent to my ISFP is INTJ? So the person that I feel nurturing towards and see as vulnerable and defenseless is ISFP. And I've read in various places that ENTP jumps to the defense of ISFP. So do those are those things analogous? Is ENTP to ISFP as INTJ is to ENFJ? Let me think. So ISFP has my polar first. ENFJ has your eighth. Not the same. Okay. So anyway, that's not a corollary. Next. Okay, so here are some more similarities. When I throw a party or a gathering, I feel very responsible for everyone having a good time. I very actively monitor everyone within my ability to ensure this. The difference is that I want to make everyone else happy so I can then be selfish and get what I want. We both get cold and standoffish when we are upset. I don't know why ENFJs do that, but they put up a huge wall and are like, I'm done. NFJ thing, I think. Yeah. I just got worn out from pushing my FI and retreat back to NI. Just get worn out from that. Yeah, okay. It is an NFJ thing, I think. In one of your videos, you mentioned how ENFJs use emoticons and GIFs and stuff to talk about emotions. I think it's very INTJ to end every text message with an emoticon and a lol because our writing can seem very cold. When FI is super happy, I got super, super happy if I. Oops. Forgot what I was doing. I don't know what made me decide to want to turn down the mic at that second. Um, I want to go back to the selfish thing, though, later. But, okay, so I get worn out from knowing consistently that the shit we're doing when when we both it's like we're saying, okay, are we ready to start working together? Yes. And then we both look down and work, and we look back up. And usually we're standing next to each other. ENFJ doesn't quite know what's going on with that, but ENTP sits there and says, yes, this worked out right, but for all the wrong reasons. you and I can foresee trouble because you are you've got ENFJ has some of the non-handle aspects of ENTP, kind of the failure to anticipate how long things are going to take, kind of shit, um, and not really. I mean, they get terrible SI. They don't understand themselves moving through time. So that's something that's going to frustrate an ENTP a lot, and I think it's something that INTJ with SI in the eighth slot is going to be much less impacted by. Um, let's see. NITE puts out not unhappy. LMAO. Nick, how are you? I'm pretty happy and content. I'm okay. Shrugs shoulders anyway. I love expressing my emotions with emoticons, gives pictures of facial expression or actions, and have a small repertoire that I use frequently. On Facebook, I generally love things instead of liking them, and that is more about standing out and getting people to second guess their perception of me. These are my relationships. You got an INFJ wife. INTJ, INFJ. That's trippy. ENFJ mother. INFP father. Oh, I don't want to be growing up in that family. ENTP brother. Did your brother hate it or what? And ISFJ best friend. And two INTJ friends. INTJ and ENFJ relationships. INTJ and INFP relationships. INTJ and INTJ relationships. INTJ pushing. Pushing. FI. What are you interested in? What am I interested in? At the moment, I'm interested in working on the house some more. I'm interested in going to bed pretty soon. I gotta get up in the morning. I gotta coach tomorrow. I want to get some shit put to bed, some tasks put to bed tomorrow. I wouldn't say really that I'm interested in those tasks. I'm interested in not thinking about them anymore. What am I interested in? This is such a good question. You mean that generally, or are you saying which of those four questions do I like? No, I didn't get bored and just skipped there. What am I interested in? I like it better as a general question. What am I interested in? It's a weird question. I have to think more about that. Um, P.S. Why are INTPs so frustrated? I'm trying to engage their mind, but they always fall off into La La Land. See, I was gonna say, I anticipate this sentence to end. They always fall off the radar. I have no problem with INTPs landing in La La Land. They fall off the radar is what they do. And not, I've had several fall off the radar on me. They exhaust the juice from the high intensity first block of time stage of a relationship, and they're ready to move on. Their NE works the same as the ENTPs does, just it's in bigger chunks. So it's just like this chunk of my life, then that chunk. They don't give a fuck, basically. ENTPs just don't give a fuck. They give a fuck in the same fun-loving way that the ENTPs do, but I'm not quite sure why. There's a difference. Like ENTPs are. We're softer. We're both down to. We're big softies inside. Not just inside. A lot of us are big softies just below the surface. Some of us are more have cultivated more of a stealth mode, but um, mostly we're both depending on our mood. What else did he say here? That's it. Oh, okay. So I want to say about those topics. I'll do those. Be able to do those topics for sure. Those are fine topics. Great topics. INFJ, INTJ. It's a tricky one. And the thing with topics, it's just something to pivot off of, right? And what we most need or anything else is somebody to say, I'd be interested in hearing you talk about this, Eric. And I'm like, great, I will talk about it then. Because I'm interested in talking about it. Now I have a good reason to. You know? I didn't know what to talk about really. A lot of possibilities. Sometimes I don't immediately come up with something simple like that guy, and that guy. Right? Like, let's put those two types together and see how it goes. But it's a perfectly viable, excellent, grounding point for a video. And that's it for this video. Okay, so that's it for the comment. I'm going to actually add a couple more words here in this video, which is to say, I wish I would stop saying that. So I was saying, which is to say, like, last comments are this. It is weird, in my opinion, because if I wrote a big comment like that, I know I would check back. I know I would wait and see if it pops up in the bell, And then if it didn't, I'd come back and check back eventually. And I might even do something like, depending on how much time and energy I invested into it and what my hopes or expectations were regarding some specific individual reading or responding to it, I came back and I was like, oh, you didn't respond to it. I wouldn't necessarily make any meaning about that. But it very well might make me, depending on circumstances, investigate a bit. If I then looked around this guy's channel and saw that he was actually very good about responding to comments. He seemed to respond to most of the people and a lot of the people right away, as quick as he could get to it, I see comments on, I see him responding to everybody. Every video look at, he's responding to everybody. Why the fuck isn't he responding to me? That would have been my experience for sure. And I would have read assorted meanings into it, or I would have run through possible meanings. I would have reread and reread my comment going, what did I say in this thing? Did I say something bad? It depending on the circumstances again, a lot of times I'll put a big comment on a YouTube video and I'll just forget about it the next day, right? That's possible too. But if I'm leave a big comment like that, I'm probably pretty intrigued with someone enough to hope that they're going to respond to me. And if I were Nicholas Spinner, and if I had been in a state where I was hoping they're going to respond to me, I would have found that very confusing and very annoying. So I wanted to just sort of say all that. It's not like I ought to apologize for not responding because it wasn't even intentional at all. I just think it's a cool thing to note how at least an ENTP response to something like that is going to be for sure. It's going to be subtext searching and meaning making and not committing to any of those meanings it makes necessarily, but leaning towards this or that. It kind of makes us to be neurotic a little bit. I have no idea if homie short-term memory shit. What's homie's name again? Pia Pia? Pia Mia Cha Oh. Nicholas Spinner. Yeah, so Nicholas Spinner, he may have put a comment up and then just totally forgot about it until he saw that I responded. He's like, oh yeah, I remember that comment. Or it could be he's been wondering about it. I can see myself wondering about something like that for a long ass time, frankly. There are events of equivalent scope and scale in my life history that I know from 10 years ago, 12 years ago. There are specific exchanges back on the old GarageBand.com forums, which was not linked to the Apple software but related to a different thing. I still remember them. This fucking little snappy repartee back and forth in a forum on a website doesn't mean it's not hugely impactful. So, at the end of the day, begins tomorrow. And at the end of tomorrow, back to Thursday. But no matter what you do, and no matter which way you get there will always be sunshine if you don't forget the horse and you do forget the saddle. Keep that in mind as you make your way through the world these days, folks. And remember that flavor, it starts with a ch and it ends with an ease. There's an ease about it. You know what it is? It's cheese.